Everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going solo today, doing the early look at the NBA. A pretty bizarre evening for me yesterday. The NBA started off like really well, and I was really doing extremely well. And then Keontae George got, he tried to play with the illness. I guess it didn't work out. And then all the other guys smashed on me. And then what ended up happening was I was looking at my results later on in the day. I was a little tired. I was going to go to sleep. And I saw that I had like $1,500 less money than I was supposed to, like across the sites. I was wondering what happened. It turns out that I played the freaking 1650 on FanDuel instead of the 333, which really annoyed me just because it's like a mental error, and lost that too. So, and then I went to bed and I woke up and I had like $20,000 more in my DraftKings account. And I'm like, what happened? It turns out I won the big buy-in in the hockey, which I totally forgot to follow up on. So I continue to run hot. Let's put it that way. But more to the point, I mean, we built the lineup specifically on the video that I made yesterday about the hockey build. So that was very weird night. And to further make it even weirder, I got on just today to do the thing with Bobby, and I think his like entire computer got hacked or compromised or whatever. So he was on the phone with Apple, and he said that he had to leave. So I'm going to be doing this completely on my own, and I guess we'll just well, you know what? I was about to say in Bobby's honor, we'll go game by game, but you know what? If he can't be here, then I'm sorry, but we're going to have to do it my way. So let's take a look, and then we'll do an early build. We'll try to have some fun with this. Yeah, but if you're like me, then you can't keep winning those NASCAR takedowns. Even if they weren't you. So let's just take a look and see what the schedule is like. All right. So first of all, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. 8 games ending with an 8:30. Now I don't know if there are any games that start after 8:30 that are not on the slate. But let's take a look actually. Let's take a look at the NBA schedule and see if there is a later slate. There is actually. There are 2 games that start. Well, no, not really. There's just one 10 o'clock game I know, John. That's taken off the schedule. So okay. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 games starting at 7 o'clock. Just take an overall look. I mean, I see a couple of things. We have Luka questionable, and then you also see Wembanyama questionable. I mean, the usual baloney. Brunson questionable. Donovan Mitchell out. So I imagine that a lot of Cleveland guys are going to be popping. Well, we'll take a look at the sheets in a second. Barnes out. I don't know how long he's been out, but that's noteworthy. Let's just see. When has he been out since? Oh, wow. He went under surgery. Oh, goodness gracious. So, yeah. So this is this first game that he's out, I think. So we'll see what Toronto did with the what DraftKings did with the salaries. So let's instead of going game by game, let's take a look at the sheets on a whole here as a whole, and we'll look at it kind of rating everybody by point per dollar to get an idea of what the slate kind of rates to look like. And again, this is early, but the first thing you'll note is this Cleveland value, right? Because with Donovan Mitchell out, you're going to get all the Cleveland value. And I also noticed that there's no, normally the guys that we'd see up here would be, oh, there's Karis LeVert. Okay, so Sam Merrill, Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, and then the next point per dollar play is down to Jared Allen. So the one thing you will, I guess, note is that Merrill, Garland, and LeVert, at least to some degree, are going to be competing for shots. So you might be able to get away with doing some rules if you play like a bunch of Clevelands, like you play, max something, of Merrill, Garland, and LeVert. Now LeVert is less is less prone to get assists, I suppose. So than Garland. So Garland you could play probably Garland with LeVert and Garland with Merrill. Merrill and LeVert together might be fishy. I won't say fishy, but it might be something to, I don't know. I think a lot of people are probably going to play all three of these Cleveland guys. Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley actually doesn't even look like that great of a play right now, even with Mitchell projected as out. What they're really doing is they're really, giving all of Mitchell's points, or I guess usage, to the guys that are going to be taking on his exact role. Like it used to be, well, I say used to be, but there's some situations where even if the point guard's out, then even the power forward can get a huge bump. Like when Fox used to be out, you would have big bumps out of, to Sabonis. But I think that they're really just being much more, I don't know. They're really assigning usage to players that are taking his exact roles away, or his exact points away. So anyway, Merrill, Garland, and LeVert seem to be the best values out here. Now, the other thing I want to look at before we get in here is where this game is. So this game is 7:30. So it's not that big of a deal. We'll probably have most of the news, if not all of it, by the time the 7 o'clock game locks. And if there's nothing good in the 7 o'clock game, we could just pass it and just make sure that we get what we want. And again, we'll be looking at things as they come across. I was going to say, why wouldn't we want to play Strus? Because Strus is out too. Yeah, so I think those Cleveland guys are probably going to be really good. So let's put those in just to remind ourselves. So let's see, we put in Garland, and then, boy, even LeVert is questionable. Oh, goodness. He's actually missed his last 2 games. Yikes. All right, so we're just going to have to see. I mean, if all these guys are out, then can you even go play? Oh, my God, Okoro is questionable as well. Goodness. Can you play Yang maybe even? We're going to have to take a look as we get closer. But this is obviously the big value spot of the day. What other value can I see here? There's nothing under 5K that's standing out, except you're getting some of this Jordan Nwora. So this is answering my question about what's going on with Toronto's, with Barnes being out. So none of these guys are really projecting all that great, but I have a feeling they're going to improve a little bit. But anyway, you have Nwora, Barrett, Quickly, Olynyk, like all together. So what that's kind of indicating to me is that they all got a boost from Barnes being out. Makes sense. Other guys that are just kind of popping up here is you get this this Misic at 5K, who's showing up as a 5X value. You don't see that all too often from the Charlotte guys. The 5X, the 5K guys being 5X. So that's interesting. It's also interesting in the context of the slate because he is it's an early game, and he's a guard. So what that means is that if you want to play him, then you're really giving up some opportunity to play Garland and Merrill. And if you do get like LeVert being out, for example, then Garland and Merrill are very, very difficult fades if they weren't already. So if you have two guards already being taken by, these two guys, Misic might not, you might have wished that you didn't play him. The other thing to think about, and again, we're talking about context of slates here, is, this is a Luka night, right? So you have Luka, who is the, top projected player on the slate by 13 full points. Okay. He's also a guard. So this becomes some pretty interesting, opportunity cost here. If you play a guy like Misic, then you, I guess you could play all these guys, but and even Luka himself is questionable. No, it's not a new issue. Okay. I mean, you could play them all. You could play all the, you could play them in the utility, especially because you could play Luka in here. But since it is the later game, you can get away with that. So if you did want to play Misic from the Charlotte, and this is also sort of interesting. Like, you see me going through doing this by hand, right? And then you say, well, why do you do that if you're just going to run SaberSim builds anyway? Remember, all I'm doing by hand is what SaberSim is going to be doing using a computer, but obviously much faster and with much more, much deeper, and just analyzing things a little, much wider. But it's really doing the same thing, right? It's taking positions and trying to put guys in that make sense. And to the SaberSim algorithm, sense just means something different than when I'm just kind of just like winging this. But all the SaberSim algorithms, or even the RotoHQ or whatever, they're just trying to fill these lineups in, with what's available. So if like say SaberSim could talk, and you ran, you said, okay, SaberSim, run 5,000 lineups, and you could kind of like turn it into the Matrix where it could do everything in slow motion, and it could be talking through every decision as it's making them through the 5,000. It would say things very similarly, right? Like, okay, Visich looks like good play. If play here, then we must choose between 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? So in any event, Misic from that Charlotte game becomes difficult to play because of all these good guards. Luka being the, just the overall top projection on the slate, and Garland and Merrill just being such strong plays, with or without LeVert. Okay, so that's shitload. Okay, but again, we're talking about what the slate's going to look like, and the next thing that I notice is that the next two, by Sheets value score guys, Wembanyama and Sengun, are not those guard positions. Now we look at them from even by point per dollar. You have Sengun, really, really one of the top point per dollar plays on the slate, and he doesn't take up a guard spot, as opposed to, say, you got like Rozier, who is a pretty good play, but he's so, he's going to take the place of some of those good guards. And you can look at it the other way, by the way. You could say, I imagine that Rozier is going to be much lower owned than Garland. I don't care what this ownership says. I mean, if you have Mitchell out, and God forbid LeVert is out too, I mean, Garland's going to be 40% owned, isn't he? I mean, I imagine. But I don't know. So Rozier, I guess, sort of remains in play. Schroeder on a back-to-back. I suppose these guys can eat in his ownership. Look at all these guards here. Van Vliet. Boy, oh boy. Somebody is going to not be played. That's just the way it is. Between Merrill, Luka, Garland, Rozier. Well, LeVert is going to get in the small forward spots. We're not worried about that. Schroeder, Van Vliet, Misic. One of these guys that are projected over 5x is just not going to be played. Jalen Green down here, he could play because he gets slotted into a forward position. Irving, I mean, there's no way Irving ends up 10%. He's got to be lower. I mean, all these guys. like these other 5K guys, quickly. Ingram, you could put in the forwards position, So it's a very, very guard heavy slate. So at the end of the day, when someone puts up a good score and he's 4% owned, you could say, how the hell was that guy 4% owned? Well, we'll know that it was because there were just a lot of plays, and you can't play everybody. And especially if LeVert gets ruled out, you'll get Merrill at extreme ownership, and Garland at extreme ownership, and you might even get them at really high ownership anyway. Okay, moving back to these top guys, so Sengun and to some degree Wembanyama, those are very, very strong plays. But again, we have to make sure that all these guys are playing, right? So they happen to be in the same game, which it's kind of good feeling to have that. So let's just see what that would look like. You put Wembanyama and Sengun all together. You're not going to be able to play all of this, but you could play most of it, right? Like you can't play Luka if you do this, but you get a little bit of correlation there. And if you want, if you remember when I was pulling up those guards, one of them that I kind of glossed over was Fred VanVleet, and he's going to be much lower owned than, say, Garland. So if you want to play, say, Fred VanVleet and really turn this into a full stack here, or if you didn't want to be that aggressive, you could play. Who was the other guy that looked pretty good? Was Jalen Green? Let me just see. Somebody I think from Houston looked kind of okay. Yeah, so Jalen Green, you could put it. Hey, what's up, Bobby?
Hey, what's up, man?
I gave the whole. I gave the whole, not the whole story, but the whole story. So just to kind of catch you up, by the way, I was really getting into the slate here. I don't know if you saw like the brain, our different brain freezes. What happened? What's been going on? So yesterday, I thought I was doing well in the NBA in DraftKings, and then everything fell apart. I had Keontae George, and then whatever, all the chalk got there at the end. And then I was looking at the my results, and I saw on FanDuel I lost like $1,000 more than I thought I was going to lose. And I'm like, what happened? Turns out instead of playing the freaking monster, I played like the baller, the 1650.
Oh no!
With like 50 people in it. It was like the worst tournament in the world. Not only that, but it had Keontae George in it, right?
Oh, no.
Like, God damn it. So I was tired. I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and because I run like freaking Jesus, I had $20,000 more in my DraftKings account than I was expecting. And I forgot to double check my hockey, and I won the big buy-in in hockey for $20,000 solo.
Oh my God, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, so I continue to run the greatest. Despite all attempts in my brain to lose, I still can't make it work.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm going through the slate here. Did you take a look at it yet?
Yeah, I took a look at it. Realistically, I don't think I'm going to play. Everything in my life right now, I've got tens of hours of trying to figure out how to retrieve everything. Every single account I have socially was hacked. I've got people that are getting weird messages from all over the place. They've been hacked too. It's just a whole spread of a fire that I don't know what to do. So but I did get ready for the slate today. So yes, I can talk through it.
I'll catch up with what I was saying. I wasn't doing game by game. I was going from the top down, and this I'll catch you up. So with Mitchell out, that the top values were these Cleveland guys. And that was going to be Merrill, Garland, and LeVert, and even LeVert himself is questionable. And if he's out, then the Merrill and Garland really become smash plays. And I was talking about a little bit of position scarcity because you want to play Luka, who projects 15 points higher than everybody else. So then you have three guards that are being taken over. Mm-hmm. So I was talking about stuff like other guards that might, be like kind of okay. That being like Rozier, Schroeder, VanVleet, even this Misic dude. But there's so many guards that what's going to end up happening, someone's going to have a good game that's 4% owned, and people are going to say, how is he 4% owned? Because there were just better plays. And then I'm just kind of totally catch up to where we are. I just started talking about the Sengun and Wembanyama being also good plays that are not guards. So right. I didn't go game by game. I just kind of went through the slate like that, and then you showed up. What do you have that's feeds on any of that stuff.
Well, I agree. I mean, I agree with the Cleveland stuff, but I also think like that I don't know. I mean, the Miami, the Rozier, and I think the Rozier projection is a little bit high, but both Rozier and Butler, I think, and Bam for that matter, I think are really interesting plays. Dean Wade is probably going to show up as a better play than maybe you'd thought before, just with the Cleveland stuff. So the thing with Merrill is that I really like playing Merrill when he's going to be lower owned. I don't always love playing him as chalk because it's just so scoring reliant.
And he's going to be chalk.
I don't know that without. I mean, his projection doesn't even look that great without. Like, you're talking about a bench guy who's 3-point shooting reliant. So I guess I'll just put it that way. I like Merrill as a real life player. Like, I think he's fine, but like he's not going to do a whole lot of things out there other than shoot. Assuming that he does in fact start. Now I know like he made 7 threes in the last game, so he got there. The game before, no one seems to remember that he played the same amount of minutes and put up 18 fantasy points. That's why I see the projection of him being around 20, which seems very reasonable, unless LeVert or Okoro are out.
And they're both questionable.
Yeah. So really, it would depend on that to determine what I would want to do in that situation.
I have another question that I started to talk about a little bit. Maybe you remember a little bit better. So Mitchell is out, and as a result, you are certainly getting like bumps for Garland and Merrill and LeVert, right? Because they do similar things, but you're not getting really any bump at all out of like Allen and Mobley. And the reason I bring it up is I just seem to remember
they gave Allen a monster bump.
Oh, they did? Oh, I didn't even know.
It's at least 5 points, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, because I was going to say is that they were a lot more specific with who they were giving bumps to, but I guess not. I guess, yeah, okay. So I would remember that when like Fox was out, for example, like in several years, you would get huge bumps out of Sabonis, but I was wondering why Allen wouldn't be getting such a big bump. But
well, yeah. the truth is that none of them are getting a much of a bump because this is nothing new. Donovan Mitchell's been out. Like nothing okay. Has changed.
Okay.
So there's really nothing new going on. I don't look at the Cleveland thing as new. I just look at some of the guys maybe as being underpriced. Sure, Jared Allen's fine. I would point out that Mobley's had the bigger games, and that's probably something I would want to do. I mean, he's been awesome without Mitchell, and the assists go way up. I would lean that way at lower ownership, probably over Jared Allen.
The other team again. I was out pretty much for like a week as far as like content goes. That Barnes is out and has surgery. I don't know how many games he's missed, but I was expecting to see more Toronto guys. I mean, they look okay, but the one guy I wanted to ask you about was another cheapo. Like I have the Jordan Nwora has kind of just like an okay value. But do you like any of the Toronto guys or?
Yeah, I think Nwora, like, it's funny because he started last time and then didn't get the minutes and everything. I would still I would still feel fine to go right back to it. They raised the price on Quickly and Barrett. Both of them seem fine to me, but I don't know about that price. Kelly Olynyk's price is a little bit much. They raised everybody's price, so it's not like they didn't adjust to the Scotty Barnes being out. But sure, you could definitely get exposure to these guys. I don't see them as like massive priorities in a not so great matchup for them, although it's a great matchup for New Orleans. They raised Agbaji's price a ton. So yeah, they really did raise everybody's prices enough to where it makes it, somebody's probably going to get there, but I don't think it's like an easy decision to just play one of them.
Okay. And I didn't touch too much on the Orlando-Charlotte game, except to say that this Misic guy looked like a reasonable value, but was going to have positional problems just because of the other guards that were in here. I didn't really get to anybody else from that game at all, which is nice because it's 7 o'clock and it's the first game. Do you agree with that? Or you like anybody else in that game?
Yeah. So what I would say is that so I would play Wendell Carter. I think that he's like borderline. Like I think his projection is wrong. He had the 2 quick fouls in the game, like against Utah a couple games ago. He had 2 quick fouls, so he played only 8 minutes in the first half. And then Mo Wagner actually was like the best player on the court for them, so he didn't come back into that one. Brooklyn, the game before that, they won by 27, which is why he only played 22 minutes. He played 31 in the last game, which they won by 22, which it's just his minutes definitely seem in flux, but I think they're still trying to get him, I don't know. I think he's like, what do we have him at today? Projected minutes wise, 26. At 26, I still like him, and I think there's upside for like 35. So I like Wendell Carter from the first games. He would be the guy who I like the best. Nobody else quite stands out for me. The Misic is, it's fine. It's volatile. Like, I mean, it's not, it's a few days ago we were playing Trey Mann and he was getting the minutes, and Misic has gotten the minutes lately. And even in those minutes, it's not like he's crushing this price tag. He played 36 minutes and put up 25 fantasy points the last game, 28 minutes the game before, put up 27. I don't think that there's any sort of must plays in this early spot. I don't mind if you want to go Misic, but I personally, if I had to pick anybody, I'd pick Wendell Carter.
What do you think of the bigs? Then we'll be totally caught up. What do you think of the bigs in the and then we'll go back to some other games in the San Antonio Houston game? Like, I was seeing that Sengun and Wembanyama both look like really good plays, and it's funny. It's for those of you that are like concerned about playing Wembanyama at 10-7. Remember when he was like 8K? We're like, this is like we're gonna laugh one day at this when he's 11,000. Well, we're here. This is just what he could be when he's playing minutes with a three handle. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Do you like Sengun? Is he still in a funk? As I remember, he was in a funk for a while.
Yeah, he's been better. I do like. I mean, I think that he's. I think that. So Wemby, just to touch on that one real quick first, like, I just think he's being underprojected basically right now. I think he'll get some ownership if the Q tag comes off. The problem is, I think with a young guy like this, like, you have to treat the Q tags really seriously. So I don't think you could try to prioritize him and then just hope that he plays. I think you have to make sure you're by your computer, because if he doesn't, that does change everything on this slate. So Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell all become very strong plays. Oh, and Zach Collins if Wembanyama's out. On the Houston side, I do like Sengun. I think he's going to be really popular, but I would put him as like a priority right now. So I think Sengun would be the Sengun. I like Carter as a cheaper one, and I like Sengun as a spend up at center. Those are the guys who I like.
Philly over the week, there was all this kind of stuff with this Mo Bamba and Paul Reed business or whatever it is. Now they did increase Bamba's price, but if he gets the start again, would you play him or anything in that game?
Maxey.
Right. Okay.
That's pretty much so the Maxey, you mentioned the other guards you liked, that there's a lot of good guards, and there is. And they have Maxey as shooting guard eligible now too, which makes it a little bit better. Maxey's like, he's not more than 5x this price exactly one time in the whole time that Embiid's been gone. So, and obviously he's always got upside on that. So I like Maxey, Paul Reed and Mo Bamba. I just think you're gambling either way, like a little bit.
Yep.
Either one could be fine. And if I'm going to gamble at 50, whatever 100, I'd rather play Carter, who at least I know is starting and I know like has some role there. These are, I don't know what they're going to do with the Bamba thing, but the last two games that he started, he played 19 and 14 minutes. Hard to be too excited about that.
Dude, I like this Carter play, by the way. I mean, he's not getting a projection, and there's literally like perfect excuses,
Mm-hmm.
And listen, it could happen again. He could play 12, 20 minutes again. But like you said, he's got upside into the 30s and upside into the 30s in a game which people are going to do what I want to do. They're like, well, who needs this game? Like I said, and Sengun is going to be really popular at the center position. So Carter, you get away with, like I said, you get away with it. You get 30 minutes out of him, and you get 35 fantasy points or something like that.
Yeah.
At center, that's you can get ahead of the field there.
Yeah, and he has an incredible matchup, and again, it's just embracing a little bit of variance. But that struck me as a place, because it's not that he can just get third. Like, he put a 40 in the last game. You know what I mean? He could really crush at this price. Now, with Orlando, the trick is always that it could be, any number of guys because they have such a deep bench. But I still like the idea of to getting to him a good amount and seeing what, seeing where it goes. With Carter, though, you have a pretty good idea after the first quarter what's going to happen. That's the good news. Most of these guys, I always say, the game's 4 quarters long, whatever. If Wendell Carter has a bad first quarter, if he doesn't have like 10 fantasy points at least, you're probably in trouble. But if he does, you might see 25 there. I've seen it before.
So Jalen Brunson came out of the game after 1 minute, and he was hopping around like he freaking popped an ACL. But by the end of the day, Tibbs is like, nah, just a bruise, whatever. I'm sure he'll play 47 minutes. Sure.
Right.
But meanwhile, he is questionable. So obviously that's a big thing to watch for. And if he's out, then, I guess just watch the projections, I suppose. I guess Alec Burks at 4,400 might be.
Yeah, I think you probably go McBride, but maybe you would mix in some Burks.
Yeah. What else is going on in Atlanta here? Murray's in, Bogdanovich is in, so there's no real issues over there. Not really getting too much of a projection of anybody over there. I always skipped over Miami because you already talked about that, right? You like Rozier and Butler and Bam over in Miami.
Yeah, Rozier is I think the projection's a little too high on him. So the other ones, I just think that no hero and a good matchup. The problem is it could be I don't necessarily love these guys. I think the matchup is so good. I want to do something against Detroit, but it is a little weird now because they are a little bit healthier and the game likely blows out. But I still think that there's enough interest in. I think Butler or Bam, because like you said, the guard position is so loaded today. I probably lean more towards them. But right now, Rozier looks like. I mean, what is he right now? And Sabersim has him as the second best point per dollar play on the slate behind Şengün. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think he's being overprojected, but I still think he's a reasonable play.
Who are you talking about?
Rozier.
Okay.
But it does feel a little ambitious, that projection.
San Antonio, Houston, we kind of dealt with, unless you want to talk about Van Vliet or Jalen Green or anybody like that.
The Van Vliet thing is fine. I will point out what I pointed out the other day about Van Vliet. I'll just say that he's looked like the best play on the slate so many times.
I know.
In the past period, and he finally got there in his last game. He put up 52. Before that, 38, 15, 30, 42, 22, 28, 24, 32, 32, 30. We were talking about a long time where he was just crushing everybody every single night. Very hard with Houston because they do have enough guys. Şengün feels the safest. But again, he's also going to have the most ownership. Jalen Green, I think, is just as good of a play as Van Vliet. Huge, volatile, but has a huge upside. I don't know. It's a good game to target. I would probably, if I was multi-entering, I'd probably get some exposure to Whitmore and Dylan Brooks also. But yeah, I do think that Houston, you definitely want some pieces, but I wouldn't overload it. I probably would go 2 or 3 from Houston. You could go more if you wanted to, but I think 2 or 3 is where I'd end up.
Say a little bit of a post All-Star break hangover for Tyrese Halliburton here, huh?
It's really confusing to try to figure out because it's hard to know how much of it is because Siakam is there now. It's really been since he got there more than, I don't think it's a specific thing, but you look at, I'm looking at the numbers and his usage is just so far down for the most part. His price is tempting, but his usage is just going away. And at some point, I don't expect it to stay the case forever. So I have no issue with getting some exposure there. Again, if you wanted to get a little different today, all these guys in the 9K range, Brunson, Murray, Maxey will have some ownership, and Halliburton. I think all 4 of those guys are really interesting. And I only think that Maxey gets ownership of those 4.
Yeah. So I presume that we're on board with Luka being a good play.
Yeah, Luka, definitely. It's a great matchup, and I expect him to continue to just dismantle everyone. If we had more value, it'd feel even a little better, but you can find some things to make work, I think, to get him in there.
Oh, definitely.
We've got BMAC asking about what about McCollum instead of Garland? No, not for me. McCollum has, what has he gotten there, like once in the last like 2 months? Twice. No interest really in McCollum. It's a good matchup, but again, just they're healthy. Why would I play a team with 3 healthy stars instead of one that is missing their most active player, potentially their second most active player? And I would probably just stick with the Garland chalkiness for sure. What about Watford without Sharp? What is Portland even on this day?
Oh, Brooklyn?
No, BMAC was asking about what about Watford without Sharp? Oh, without Dayron Sharp. I was thinking about without Shaden Sharp. I was like trying to figure it out. And Watford used to play for Portland. You got to keep up with it. I gotta remember sometimes who's playing where. Yeah, I think that's probably what happened. Yeah, I currently have Watford projected at a 0. So I don't have any interest in Watford. I think it's really thin and really fringy. Could it happen? Sure. Yeah, something could happen, but I don't know. I wouldn't make a play like that.
So the early Saberson builds, not surprisingly, has Merrill, Sengun, Garland, Levert, Rozier, but it really wants to play what's his name, the Nwora, at 60%. Yeah, that's certainly makes sense. But I don't know. Does that seem thin? I mean, I don't know.
I would probably, if I was playing, I'd probably have a near 100% Nwora right now.
Oh, wow. I guess not.
There's really no value out there, you know. That's you've got Dean Wade. So I guess Dean Wade. I don't know if I'd have 100%. I'd have a lot though. Dean Wade and Nwora would be the 2 guys who stand out for value. And the thing with Nwora is he has like 50 fantasy point upside. Like it's not like he doesn't have like real upside. It's not like, you're not getting 20s out of him. BMAC, I wouldn't say that I would necessarily like go out of my way to cross those guys off of my list, by the way. And Kobe Buffkin, by the way, too. I don't know if I'd take those guys off my list. I just wouldn't play them over instead of anybody. Well, I definitely don't have any interest in Watford unless we hear something funny from Brooklyn. But McCollum is like, if you wanted to take a shot with him, I don't think it's wrong, but I wouldn't play him instead of Garland. I would play him in addition if I played him. But I have no interest really in McCollum. All right. So you're running the build?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like right now it's getting 100% Merrill. And if you and this is not the first time that you've identified Merrill as maybe not the greatest bit of chalk in the world. And like you said, he's whenever we have guys that are really, really shooting dependent, those are very volatile plays, you know?
Right. And he played 25 minutes of the game before and was 4 of 9 from 3 and still had 18 fantasy points.
Well, that's
He's only shoots the ball. Of his last 38 field goal attempts, all but 1 were threes. And this is a guy who hasn't had more than 3 rebounds or 2 assists. Oh, yeah, he had 1 game with 4 assists, but every other game has been 2, 1, or mostly 0 assists. I don't really know. We saw him have some outlier games when. And now, if you get Levert out, also that's a different story, and Okoro, because then the minutes are very secure. But as of right now, this is the same situation that we've seen with Cleveland, and we saw Merrill score 6, 18, and 31 fantasy points. So to play him as chalk because he made 7 threes in the last game doesn't feel like the smartest thing to do to me. He's a great shooter, but it's a lot to ask for.
Were you thinking the same thing when all those games Duncan Robinson was really chalky?
He's different though. He actually can do other things.
Okay.
But yeah, somewhat similar. He's still shooting reliant, but much less shooting reliant than a guy like Merrill. Merrill's like it's like Kyle Korver kind of a thing.
Is he still in the league?
No.
Okay.
Hey, the guy got to an All-Star game though, just by being just by being a great shooter.
Was he in the All-Star game, or was he just an All-Star weekend?
No, he was in the All-Star game one year.
Wow.
He was shooting like 55% from three. That's why. But
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to try to figure out what I can even get done today, because I'm just like, this whole thing is, I'm going nuts here, man. Just really hard to figure out.
Stick around after we go offline,
Okay.
and then maybe I'll have some advice or whatever. But in either case, I'll be there at 6:30. No, at 6.
I'll be there for that, because I've got our company meeting stuff. So whether I'm playing or not, I'll make sure to set aside that time at least.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna end the stream then.
All right.